Welcome to Black Muse. Black Muse is a podcast where creatives from the worlds of jazz, hip hop, gospel, politics, sports, fashion, theater, and literature engage in the lively art of conversation. I am so pleased to introduce to you today a woman that I've known. I think I was trying to guess this right. I believe I met her in 2016, if my memory serves me correctly. My guest today is Crystal Dyer. Crystal Dyer is an accredited and certified travel advisor. As founder and CEO of Gone Again Travel and Tours, a group's exclusively agency with a focus on business incentive groups and family travel, she began her passion by attending Harper College Travel Academy in Palatine, Illinois, finishing a certificate program for travel agents and meeting planners. Graduating in September of 1999, she initially opened the agency from her home in the Austin community. After retiring from AT&T Communications in 2004, where y'all know she rocked it, she worked with Delta Airlines, One Travel, and GoGo Vacations. Crystal opened the first African-American-owned brick-and-mortar agency in the Austin community on September 22nd, 2016, and has been featured in the media on WGN-TV Chicago, Girls Trips, Chicago Reader newspaper, West Side to the World, B Media, African Americans Group Travel, WGN-TV's Chicago's very own Crystal Dyer, which focused on the nonprofit Chicago Austin Youth Travel Adventures Program. She founded to expose inner city youth to world cultures and career opportunities. People You Need to Know magazine, Atlanta, the Decatur Champion newspaper, Georgia Austin Weekly newspaper, and many more. Currently, Ms. Dyer is also chair of State Representative LaShawn K. Ford's Tourism Committee in Springfield, Illinois. Gone Again Travel and Tours is an accredited member agency of the International Airline Travel Agent Network, which is one of the highest accreditations in the industry. American Society of Travel Advisors, Family Travel Association, Certified Autism and Accessible Travel Advocate. The agency is registered with all the major airlines, hotels, and tour suppliers of the world, fully insured and bonded, servicing groups with options they could not find on their own that include payment plans on most and superior customer service. I am pleased to welcome to you today my friend, Crystal Dyer. Hello there.
Hello, good evening, Doris, and thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
You have done so much. You know, when I think about the last interview that we had, you were planning a trip to Ghana, and I was so excited because I wanted to go on that trip and I couldn't. It would have been my first trip with Gone Again, but it's going to happen. It is going to happen. You were planning this trip. Tell me about this trip. Now, I've seen videos, I've seen and heard the testimonies of a couple of the young girls who went on that trip. What were you hoping for when you planned that trip?
So on this last trip, I mean, these kids just brought me to tears. And to hear from their own little voices, what it meant to them and how it helped them.
Yeah. But I do know, because as a very, very proud board member of the Chicago West Community Music Center, who is the sponsor of Black Muse podcast, we understand how important that cultural exchange is. We send kids, not just, and I mean cultural exchange and learning in the sense of learning, global learning. We send them to China. We have an exchange program with the Pudong Youth Center in Shanghai. We also sent our kids to Paris, France. And do you know the first group of kids that went to Paris the first time? They wrote their first song in Paris, France about that experience.
Oh my God.
It's that exposure. Yeah. You're exposing kids to things like, I want you to talk about something that I know you know something about, and kids are experiencing it for the first time. We watch, I'm right now representing in my day job with the Broadway in Chicago, The Lion King. And we know the story of The Lion King, you know, and the whole naming ceremony.
Yes.
You actually exposed them in Ghana to a naming ceremony. Tell us about the importance of that culturally, and then what the experience was like.
Oh my gosh. You know, I also connected with the university in Ghana. And so prior to our youth having the experiences every day, professor we'd have these brief sessions, and he would go over the history, you know, the language, the meaning, you know, of, you know, why they, you know, do things, you know, and your birthright. And so to go to you know, the you know, to the actual village, okay. Wow. And so, and then, you know, you have the chief, you know, and the queen mother and the whole village, okay. I mean, this was authentic, like we had just come out of our mom's womb, okay. And I mean, that experience is, I mean, something I had, you know, of course, never experienced like that in my life.
Yeah.
But for these little kids, you know, to, you know, the whole village to come out and praise them, you know, and honor them, and you know, come into the king, the chief's palace, you know, and dance with them, and, you know, the queen mother wash their feet and, you know, pray over us, you know, pray to the ancestors, you know, and to give us our official African names, you know, like I say, just as we were born there that day. Okay. Wow. And, you know, it was, you know, I was, you know, everybody was speechless. I mean, you know, you couldn't help but cry, you know. I mean, you know, it's like, I mean, you were crying for, you know, the strength your ancestors gave you, you know, to be able to make this journey, you know, over 400 years later to a place where our ancestors at that point didn't even know if they were going to see the light of another day.
Yes.
And then for us to be there, for these kids to be there in this place, okay, in our homeland, and to basically praise our ancestors and tell them, hey, we made it, you made it.
You know what? You just made me, I got chills because you made me think about something I heard one of the young participants say that moved her. This girl couldn't have been more than 12 years old. And she talked about a place you took them to. I believe it was called the Ancestor River.
Yes, Blood River, yes.
Blood River. And this is where the slaves washed themselves, right?
Yes.
Oh, man. You know, I know that you know, I surely do know, but tell our listeners why that is so important, that we expose young people to this very specific kind of activity.
You know, right now, and it doesn't, you know, matter rich or poor, you know, in our society, you know, or, you know, everyone's confused. The world is, you know, as the old song would say, it's just a ball of confusion right now. Okay,
That's right.
for everyone,
Yeah.
young and old. And so to take kids or young people, back to this place, Africa is the birthplace of the world. Okay. And so now here they are, of African American descent, or, like I said, they could, the 4 young ladies that went this year, I had gone another time and a young man went. And, to see people that look just like them,
Yeah.
that have pride in their color.
Mm.
Okay. And to stand in this river where our ancestors walked sometime up to a year, okay, to get to that river just covered with blood and feces and wounds, and had to wash themselves before they would get to the shore where they would auction them off, okay, and put them on the ships. And some of them never left that river. Some of them died right there in that river. So for your feet, for my feet, for their feet to stand there on that ground in that water and say, I'm the greatest, I am the strongest of the strong. Okay. Whatever my challenges are, okay, in this world, from this day forward, they believe in their hearts and souls that they can make it, that they can conquer any challenge. That's what that does.
See, and that was one of my questions for you. What are you demonstrating to them with these trips? What are you showing them? And you're telling us about that right now. That kind of, man, it's an experience. It's not an activity. It's an experience, because that's something that will be with them forever and ever. When they're getting ready, attempting to apply for something, whether it be a job or a loan or a venture capital investment in something they're building, or who knows what they could be doing.
Correct.
But it is the confidence. That's what you're building in these kids, showing them your people. You come from a people of greatness, of strength, and you're demonstrating to them how they fought for survival. I want to talk a little bit about Travel Youth. Now, what's the acronym you use?
CADA.
CADA. That's right, CADA. CADA. That's your acronym. Now, when you started CADA, I know, and I like, we're telling the story, so we're going to tell the whole story here. So I know, we're friends. So I know that you started this company with your son, Christopher, after you lost your grandson to gun violence, right?
Yes.
And I mean, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's an important part of the program. My grandson was 18 years old, and 5 days after his 18th birthday, right here on Augusta and Mayfield, he had gone to a birthday party, and he was just reciprocating because he had a birthday party that Monday, and one of his friends had a party, and he went to the party. He didn't know that someone had an argument before he got there, and he had just walked in, and the people came back and shot the party up, and my grandson was standing at the door, and Devin was murdered that day, 5 days after his 18th birthday. And so, that was just, of course, heartbreaking for my entire family. But I kept getting this message, from God saying, you have got to help these kids. Kids have got to get out of this community so they'll know, so they can have a glimpse of what their future can be.
Some kind of a vision. If the people don't have a vision, they perish.
Yes. And so that's when, I came back to Chicago, because I'd left. I was living in Atlanta at the time. I moved back to Chicago, and I founded CATA, or Chicago Austin Youth Travel Adventures, and with my son Christopher, and then we started to take kids on cultural immersion journeys just out of the community to museums and cultural centers and art museums and
I know you even take them out to on college visits. I mean,
oh yeah,
I know you do the whole gamut. And in fact, I learned all about that in 2016, and I think it was 2018 when it was your first Ghana trip that you were planning, and it was such a big excitement. I remember it very clearly. You were so excited about this trip, and we were trying to do as much as we could to promote it and help you to get the word out about it. And it was so successful in the sense that before it happened, that there were so many people interested in going and paid in full and went. And it would have been your first trip as a hostess. And the very day of departure, what happened?
That's okay.
And if you'd rather not.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, the day of departure, my son Christopher died in an accident. And we were going to depart that evening at 6 p.m. And, at about, 6 p.m. that morning, I got the call that, he was deceased. And so, I, just, talk to, my, business partners and, encourage them to still go. I say, you've got to go. You still, I'll be okay. Everybody here is going to look after me. And I say, but this is important for the kids, you've got to go. And they went. They did go. And so, our young man that was able to go on that particular one and everything, he had a hard background here in Chicago, and with different deterrents and going to jail and so that trip, taking him to Ghana on that particular journey in 2018 helped him to really see, through his own eyes that he could complete his journey, despite his challenges. And that young man right now has graduated from college and works for a law firm.
See, that's what I'm talking about. We need that kind of education. The kind of education that the average Caucasian kid gets in America is the automatic, that kind of exposure, really, in a lot of ways. And the average Black kid just doesn't have it. And probably the average Latino kid doesn't have it either, Exactly. I mean, they find a way, I think, to get home maybe, but they've got immigration issues to think of. So they've got issues, and the Black and brown communities suffer when it comes to exposure.
Right.
And bless you for taking them to the museums, but looking at artifacts just ain't the same as standing, crossing, knowing you have traveled thousands of miles to a place of your ancestry.
Yes. And see, but it gets them excited for that journey though. So when they go to these, because and and this is the thing, a lot of their parents have never been out of the community.
It's okay to tell the truth.
And that's the reality. So, I've had parents, come to me with tears in their eyes and say, I never thought of this for myself, and I'm 50 years old.
Yeah, they've been so busy working and trying to make the money for tuition and after school curricular activities, and they don't have time or money to travel. So they just pray and hope they can do the best they can so the next generation can do it. But tell me more about those testimonies.
Exactly. And so, so parents told me that, that helped them to see, they needed to, start building off of their children's vision. You see, so here you are, you got a parent that in some cases has raised 2 or 3 or 4 kids, and their youngest kid got this opportunity, to go to Africa. And now the parent, and then the child is talking, because we do, like for 23, we're doing something, even I think more amazing, because we're going to send half of the kids to Kenya and half of the kids to Ghana.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And then when they come back, then they can, combine their stories, share their experiences, as to, what the different cultures, because across, Africa, of course, every language, and so forth. And but in the whole scheme of things, that we were all affected, by the slave trade.
Absolutely. When is that trip taking place in 2023?
It's going to be July 29th to August the 9th.
I want to talk about now some of the fundamentals of Gone Again travel. Now, you offer things like education and mentoring and job training. Talk a little bit about some of those services that you offer.
Okay, well, let's see. Well, as you know, Gone Again Travel's been around for 23, actually going on the 24th year. And so, I way before I became, as I call myself, Miss Gone Again, I was Crystal Dyer, right? I was the person that, my friends and family called for advice. Yeah. They knew I read things,
Well, you're corporate. I mean, people see you now, they don't realize you were the personification of corporate America.
Yes.
That's hilarious. Because I get it. Really, I do. I do.
And so even today, I take, of course, I have CADA, but I take young entrepreneurs under my wing and help them learn the ropes of business. Okay. Because which is, when I was coming up, I went to a vocational high school back in the day. It was CVS at the time, right? Where you could learn a trade, right, in school. And so, and then my family was business oriented and so forth also. But, things changed, over the years and,
Well, it changed in the Black community, but not in the Latino and other communities. They can still learn to trade in school.
Exactly. And so that hurt us, okay? That hurt the Black community a lot because then, it's like, okay, what do I do? And so you got a lot of young aspiring entrepreneurs. They want to be in business. They in some cases, they don't even know the simple thing like, hey, you need a business license.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in the city of Chicago, one thing I saw, especially during COVID, that I thought was just sad was, they had all this money for entrepreneurs, for COVID relief, but a lot of young Black entrepreneurs couldn't get the money because they didn't have a business license. Nobody ever told them, they were selling their wares and so forth. I mean, well, of course, I got a business background, went to business school and everything, but they didn't. And even whoever was guiding them didn't just give them the basics.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of entrepreneurs to the basics. And then also, right before my son Christopher passed away, actually, he had just published his first book. And yes, he had. And the name of the book is 4 Steps to Building Your Brand. And so in this book,
you incorporated these lessons.
Yes, exactly. And and he has, and it was just so sweet. In the forward of the book, he thanked his mother, as his first business coach. My son was
his biggest encourager.
Yes, and that boy, he had come through a lot of the things that the kids now are going through, as I call it, the terrible teens. But then he grew, to be an amazing man with 2 degrees, making 6 figures, ruling the world, from a community where, as they say so often, has minuses, right?
Right.
And everything. And so I take all of that, and now I give it all to, the kids and the adults.
So tell me now, people who want to know more about Gone Again Travel, maybe they want to book a trip for their youth on that program for 2023. How do they get in touch with you?
Okay, well, our website is catchtheworld.org. Just like it sounds, catchtheworld.org.
You want to catch it, y'all.
That's right. And phone number is my phone number is 312-813-6047. And then I can be emailed also at info@catchtheworld.org. And so our program is enrolling now for January. And we're getting ready to take off for Ghana and Kenya, July 29th to August 9th. The dates are on the books. And so we are actually gonna take off. I was meeting with the 15th District CAPS yesterday. And so we're gonna start having meetings for the parents and the youth, and the genealogy program starts. So they start that process with tracing their family tree.
Oh, this is so fabulous. I thank you so much for being a guest on Black Muse. We appreciate you and our whole mission of bringing, the valuable resources that we have in our community, making them available, telling your stories to the world. There are so many people who are doing wonderful things, impacting lives that like none other. What you're doing for the youth and adults all around Chicago is just amazing. Absolutely amazing. I applaud you. Kudos, my friend. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here supporting you as long as you're doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much, Doris. I really appreciate you. And thanks to Howard Sandifer and for his wonderful vision.
He is our man.
helping the youth, and again, getting them out of their heads and into the world.
Yes, exactly. That's the mission.